Live from Arendelle, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. All right, howdy there.
Howdy.
It's cold.
Yeah, Nick, you were supposed to get someplace warmer than Indiana.
No, this might actually be colder than Indiana, which is quite saying a lot at this point.
That is saying yes. I will say this though, it's pretty.
It is very pretty.
I mean, I appreciated that about winter this year in general. I mean, I hate it when you have a lot of snow and then it warms up too much and it all melts. This year we got snow throughout January.
Yeah, you don't have all that like normal freeze melt, and everything is slushy and ugly and brown and
muddy,
and
gross. Yeah.
We'll wait another month for that.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of people who don't enjoy it, but look at what it looks like here in Arendelle. That's what it looks like in Indiana.
Yeah.
Basically.
And as far as I know, it might stay that way here in Arendelle for quite a while.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
Yeah.
I hear the ruler has issues.
Several, yes.
So how you been, Nick?
Pretty good. It's been a pretty good month so far.
Mm-hmm. You just celebrated your 10th anniversary.
10th anniversary, yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, that's quite a long time.
Yeah. So what did you do to celebrate?
Oh, we went down to Brown County without the kids,
mm-hmm.
which was kind of fun for
for people who aren't from Indiana.
What?
Tell
Which of you are not from Indiana? It's the middle. Come on. Okay. It's like the only hilly county in Indiana. No, it's southern Indiana. Yeah,
but southern Indiana.
But it's known for Brown County State Park, and it's known for its autumn leaf view and everything. But it's near Nashville, Indiana, which is kind of this touristy little antique place. Mm-hmm. Anyways, it's a nice little
touristy that anybody outside of Indiana would know about, but inside Indiana, it's kind of the go-to vacation spot, especially for honeymooners and long-time newlyweds.
Long-time newlyweds?
Yeah. Hey.
I'll take that.
Yeah, you're just in your first decade.
Exactly.
You're still starting out.
Yeah, we got 8 more, so.
Yeah, there you go.
When Newton was signed, my head will stay alive.
Are we all set?
Yeah, I guess that's it. So, we'll go to story school. Story school, this is your idea, so I'll let you introduce it. Normally you do that to me, so.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Well, one of the handy things about writing blogs, I've noticed, sometimes we get an idea whether it's a blog that you've written or in this case one that I wrote, it's that we get to spin off and expound upon a little bit more.
Like, well, we wrote 500 words on it. Let's talk for another half hour about it.
Because we can do that. It's our podcast. In this case, we decided for Children of the Wells, I take turns writing blogs occasionally. And the most recent one I wrote was about the movie Frozen, and namely the song Let It Go. And I said that I noticed that...
It apparently is in like 27,000 languages now.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, Disney just released some movie or some YouTube video about that.
Yeah.
It's been nominated for an Oscar, and I guess they uploaded the whole song sequence on YouTube, and that's already hit, I noticed, like 51 million views.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I like the song, but I would not have thought it was that giant of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed it, but I guess, I don't know.
It is sort of a funny thing.
Haha.
In my blog, I noted that it kind of felt like a lot of people were sort of missing the point of the song to a degree. Because this song kind of comes at sort of a naive moment for. I mean, it is great for the character who's singing it, Elsa, in the sense that she's finally free of having to, hide everything in and all this stuff.
She had a lot of repression thing going on, very like cut herself off from everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very taking her toll on her. She just felt like she couldn't do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was very understandable when, like, after she basically was outed, and then she was like, okay, this doesn't matter anymore. I'll, just let it go and be free to be who I want to be and stuff like that. Which is totally understandable for it. And I really liked the song. I liked its role in the movie. But I noticed that, like, all the attention on that aspect of the song, the being free to be who you are was kind of overlooking the fact that, she's freezing everything. The movie is called Frozen because the main problem of the movie is she's freezing everything. And there's a lot of people that are kind of in danger because of this.
The entire conflict of the movie comes from her letting it go.
Yeah. And yet it's the kind of be who you want to be moment for a lot of people. And I love that Disney didn't make Elsa the villain. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's a really neat move. It's a great way of exploring sisters, and they had a great relationship in the movie. But I was thinking, if this had been a villain song, because there have been tons of catchy villain songs about...
Villains have some of the catchiest songs.
They do. And a lot of time it's about having things my own way, or like, I'm going to show everybody else now. And this, taking a hair in a different direction. If later in the movie Elsa had, because at this point Elsa doesn't really know that she's causing as much problems as she is.
Yeah, but she lets it go and she does it purposely away from everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, she thinks she's free because she's away from everyone, not because she's hurting people or that she doesn't care what's happening to other people.
Exactly. And I think, if it had gone a different direction and if it turned out that she did find out about this and she still didn't care about other people, that she was just doing it because, hey, I want to, then I don't know that actually it's ironic, because I don't know that it would have been, because that's not a noble character.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would have become as popular, but, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think the let it go aspect, you quoted a line in your blog, I don't remember offhand, but there was one, what was the line? And I talked to Natasha about it right after, a different line from yours. Go ahead and share yours if you remember.
Well, it may have been at some point she does say something about, the cold never bothered me anyway. She does say something in there about not caring what other people say.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Which didn't bother me as much. Well, I had read that blog before I watched the movie. But then somewhere in it, she says something along the lines of, I no longer have to care about what's right and wrong.
No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free.
Well, Disney has generally a theme going through a lot of their movies of this kind of like, be yourself, and the old way of doing things is cramping your style, which I always like, really? And this movie though doesn't show that as the theme. But I think you're right. If she was a villain, I don't think the song would have gone off as in the same way, but I think it taps into what people want a theme of life to be.
I should clarify real quick here. We're not going to talk about Frozen the entire time, in case you were thinking about that. We kind of wanted to focus the discussion on sometimes when people sort of miss the point of a movie or of a story. They miss the point while fixating on some other random thing. In this case, Let It Go, it is a beautiful song, but if you're missing kind of the bigger picture of it, if you just separate Let It Go from everything else, then I think you're doing not only a disservice to the movie, but a disservice to the song in a sense. Because the song is stronger as part of this greater whole.
And I think that sort of distraction happens in lots of media from the main theme, but I think musicals are probably more prone to it, because musicals tend to make giant numbers out of temporary emotions.
It's the Wells Fargo wagon. It's a whole song about a UPS truck.
I mean, yeah, they just, let's sing and dance, we're sad, we're happy, and it might have nothing to do with what's actually going to happen or what the main thrust is. It's just like, this is a good time to sing.
Yeah.
Now good musicals like Fiddler on the Roof, when tradition is a big song, but that kind of is the entire...
It's an important theme
yeah.
of the whole show. Yeah.
Now, I guess If I Were a Rich Man is not as important, but awesome song regardless. But
now, here's a question about this song in particular, and it'll be interesting as we go in. We'll go into other examples in a minute here, but it'll be interesting to extrapolate from this. How much, in a sense, do you think do the filmmakers actually encourage this sort of? Because I mean, they give this like a huge moment in the film, and I guess I've heard some interviews say that this was. Like when the songwriters wrote this, it did sort of define the character for them, and they kind of moved on from there. It was apparently the first song written that stayed in the movie.
Okay.
So my question is, did the filmmakers encourage this in a sense without disregarding some of the other features of the movie that were built into it? Because I mean, there is a lot in it about Elsa does care about her people, about her nation. So,
but I think, that's a good question. I think that they might have, obviously the way they built the song itself, I mean the trappings of it, because it's a visually beautiful scene too. Obviously they thought this was a big number. It's like be our guest, it's like, this is our main, pull out all the stops, let's get the computer graphics going song. But I think it's also because it's probably the most emotionally gripping song in it. It's one that will grab the audience's emotions one way or another. And in some ways, that's all you really care about when you're trying to make a great song. You make a great song by making that one great, not worrying about the rest of it. I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't have worried about it, but I think their theme was probably like, hey, this has a lot of potential. It resonates with me. It'll resonate with the audience. Let's do it up. And it is basically your turning point from Act 1 to Act 2. I mean, it is, so there are a lot of things hinging on it. You had suggested, I know, having a reprise at some point, which I think would have been helpful. Then you could have taken the same idea of saying, look, I've moved past having to keep everything in, but I've found new types of boundaries.
Right. And I do love the way she winds up learning. These are big spoilers here, so hopefully you're not one of the 5 people who hasn't seen this movie yet. I do love the way she takes control over her powers in the end. I mean, using love makes perfect sense for this scenario that you devised. But I do think having another big musical number, because I saw some guys online kind of point this out, that the first half of the movie has way more music than the second half.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about, like, the beginning, it almost feels kind of like, I mean, it's the most Broadway, like, Disney movies since Beauty and the Beast, a lot of people have said.
But the second half is largely
action. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just feels like if you had balanced that out a little more, as the movie currently stands, Let It Go sort of is kind of the big musical crescendo of
there's not really another song except for Olaf's, is there, after that?
Well, no, there's a couple. Olaf sings, then there's, and then
you got the
duet.
Oh, yeah.
There's a duet between 2 sisters, and then the trolls. And
the trolls, that's true. I forgot. I just remember there was a lot, right? You're right. It's very, the first half, or first third is very music heavy.
Yeah, because, I mean, you've got music segueing into a lot of these big scenes and stuff. And then it kind of, not quite as much in the first, I suppose more in the last third as opposed to the last half, technically. Yeah. I mean, I thought the duet between the 2 sisters was pretty strong.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just an interesting method. And as creators, it makes me wonder, sometimes you can get really caught up in a certain aspect of your story that you really like, that you kind of forget about the consequences of other parts of your story.
Well, we've mentioned before that the fixation many people have on, say, Darth Vader and Boba Fett in Star Wars. They're fabulous characters. They're very interesting looking. And unique characters, but
they don't really serve that much of a point.
Boba Fett especially. I mean, hey, I was obsessed with him too, but
I never was.
Well, I think some of it's the mystery around him.
Oh, sure.
But it does seem power's always attractive.
True.
And that's partly those guys, and partly Elsa actually, and honestly.
Oh yeah.
There's something to be said about that sort of.
This is a side note, but I'd be very curious to see if they're, like, because she's apparently an anomaly in her world, but I was really curious, they apparently knew about the existence, or at least the king and queen knew about the existence of trolls, or that this could happen. So it'd be really interesting if they ever did a spin-off or anything like that to see who else was in, what other sort of abilities.
Yeah.
But that's a complete side tangent. But, okay, so what are some other instances of this? I mentioned in my blog, Legolas and Lord of the Rings kind of hogging the spotlight. But honestly, there's a lot you could say about the filmmakers for Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit completely missing large chunks of Tolkien.
Yeah, or at least, like they'll get sometimes the outwardness of it, not what was behind it.
Yeah, the truth that makes it work in a sense.
And I think, I was thinking the other day, sometimes some movies will be kind of overwhelmed by their third act, by their last battle scene. Like, you're doing character all this stuff, and then suddenly you have the scene where the 2 armies are against each other, and they run at each other, and you got 25 minutes of people just beating each other up, and you kind of lose your characters. Mm-hmm. And because there's a need to make a climax of some sort. Frozen is an emotional climax, and here's a different sort of climax. But sometimes the climaxes are somewhat disconnected from what the rest of the movie was about.
I remember some people said that about The Incredibles, which I don't know that it applies as well because they felt like the battle at the city wasn't nearly as interesting as a lot of things that went out.
But they were all working. They
were all working together,
Yeah.
and it's a superhero movie, so I mean, it fits in with the genre.
I mean,
I guess for some people, some critics, I know if they felt like it didn't transcend the genre as much as some other stuff in the movie. But that's personal.
Well, it's like watching Wall-E and saying, but the first 20 minutes are genius, and the other is not quite as good. Well, you can't keep that up.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
No, but I'm trying to think of book example. Okay. I don't know if this is a proper example or not, but Romeo and Juliet. Everyone sells it as this great love story. Where I remember in high school, I don't know, it was my teacher, we were talking, and Romeo at the beginning had just gotten over some other girl. Apparently, he just goes from infatuation to infatuation. I mean, you could read in such a way where, look, this is bad stuff happening. Nothing good comes out of any of this, but everyone takes it as kind of like the quintessential thwarted love idea, and you're like,
is it?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's
been a long time since I've read it, so I'm working from distant memory at this point. But
yeah, and that's hard to tell. Like I remember,
I think it's ambiguous enough. You can run it either way.
Yeah, I saw one. Like I know, Nostalgia Critic talked about that one time, and he kind of said there's a certain extent of that, but I wonder if part of it is because their romance is so generic is kind of a bad word for it, but in a sense, it's abstract enough that you can kind of write your own, put yourself in their position, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that might be part of it. But yeah, movies. Going back to the movies real quick, I do wonder sometimes. You were talking about like the spectacle of the third act, kind of forgetting about the themes of before. And I do wonder if part of that is where the director or the writer's delusions of grandeur, or not the writer, the director or the producer, I should say, kind of outweighs the writer in a sense. Because, at some point you're seeing, the special effects and the costumes and extras and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe that's when you lose sight of the story a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's a strong temptation for movies now. They have to be big movies because people have such good TV and computer and everything else that to go and plop down, how much money to go watch a movie. You want to make it what you can't see anywhere else.
Yeah. Or experience anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Dire CG planet and 3D glasses or olfactory smells and
No.
so. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a good book example, but I'm not sure I run in the proper circles do that.
Okay, well, here's you're a Ray Bradbury person.
Yeah.
I remember when we were talking about at a recent Children of the Wells meeting,
okay.
Aaron saying that Ray Bradbury had a much different idea of what Fahrenheit 451 was than people who read it.
That's true, and I don't know. That's probably the only major work I haven't read for ages and ages.
Okay, so you can't really.
I can't really say, but I do remember at the back of I was flipping through Fahrenheit 451 recently, a couple weeks ago, and just reading him afterward. And he was talking about how there was some version of his book that came out, or the school had come out, and they had taken out all the cuss words from it. And he was like, at least he said in that point, this is a book kind of about censorship, and you're taking out my words.
Yeah.
And he's like,
hello.
Exactly. And it was, or he was talking about also, he saw some collection of classic books in the novel, and then basically they'd cut everything down so you could just get the plot from it. He's like, you've missed the point of reading the book if you've cut out the language and just gave you the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like most people think. Well, and that's not quite the same thing. Never mind. Ignore that. That would be too far off topic, I think.
And I guess the flip side of this, because we read a while back George MacDonald's essay, The Fantastic Imagination.
Oh, yeah.
And where he kind of pointed out that, it's okay sometimes for audience to interpret things, to pull something out of a work that the author may not have originally intended. But there's kind of a difference here between, I don't know, where's the line there? Because like say one of your more abstract stories,
Yeah.
like the Clock Tower.
Clock Tower, yeah.
I remember I was talking with you about that sometimes. I was pulling things out, and you're like, oh, so that's what that means.
No, and the thing is, I think as a writer, like even if you write something like Clock Towers that's purposely a little more ambiguous, there is a certain logic that makes certain meanings possible even if you weren't thinking about it directly. If you're writing internally consistently and psychologically consistency and everything, people are going to pull out things that maybe you didn't see but fit the world, how it works. As a reader, I get to a certain extent the reader response. You know, everyone's going to watch a movie and get something else out of it. But I think at some point, you're reading more of what you already have in you than what the movie's saying. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
And like, because sometimes I'll watch a movie or a TV, you know, something, and I'll be like, I got this out of this, but it doesn't really fit in what they were trying to say. I had a good example, but I don't.
Yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean. We're like, you're kind of projecting your own world view on the story as opposed to what you know. Like, you can probably make biblical, allusions out of Babylon 5, even though it's clearly written by an atheist. Or same with Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I remember like the series 3 finale with Martha. You and we were looking at each other like, Martha's evangelizing.
Exactly. Well, and the thing is, though, you can pull that out partly because he had obviously alluded to that sort of religious overtones. And J. Michael Straczynski in Babylon 5 uses religious overtones all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's though he's atheist, he obviously sees something interesting, and he's very biblically illiterate.
Mm-hmm. But there are situations
where you can realize, okay, he's not going this far. You can go that far, yourself, but you know that, okay, what I know about the writer and the rest of the show, and TV is like that a lot, where like one episode you can get something out of, but in the context of all the episodes, it might not mean the same thing.
Right. And sometimes you can sort of find inconsistencies that way. If you're like, you're saying this character is supposed to be this, but their actions are proving otherwise.
Oh yeah, most modern romantic comedies, they're all like, they're trying to sell like, I'm deeply in love with this person, and half their actions you're like, who in the world would do that if you actually meant this was any sort of real version of love?
Yeah.
At least from my definition. It just baffles your mind, and then it undercuts what they're trying to say. They'll do kind of the generic, or man, I'm at a loss for a really specific example tonight, but
you recognize the trends.
Yeah, the trends, they're there, and sometimes when people try to get kind of a semi-spiritual in TV shows, like they'll say one thing, then everything else you're like, obviously you don't. This is a very superficial understanding of any sort of religion.
Right. Well, like when they have the token Christian character who winds up like just speaking without any sense of tact or real understanding of what biblical Christianity is about, then that's like a situation where the writers didn't do their homework.
Or they want to give the appearance of understanding or tolerance or something. Not the writers, but the people in the show. And then it just kind of falls apart later, I'm a good guy, and then it's like some shows with like a lot of post-apocalyptic or more kind of anti-hero shows where like I'm the good guy and I gotta go and beat the bad guys, and then he does the same thing the bad guys do, which I know we've talked about before. But it's like you're undercutting your entire definition of what this guy is.
Mm-hmm. I just recently rewatched Linkara, a comic book reviewer online. His review of One More Day, which is a very infamous Spider-Man comic. But he kind of pointed out that part of the problem writers often have with Spider-Man, with writing Peter Parker, is that, okay, so Peter Parker is supposed to be all about, with great power comes great responsibility, and yet, from his perspective at least, and I'm not nearly as an avid comic book reader as he is, but from his perspective, Peter Parker hasn't actually grown up as much as he doesn't actually take on the responsibility that he should have as an adult. And the reason he gave for this was that basically Spider-Man as a character was originally kind of conceived as, he struggles with all these issues and all this kind of stuff. The problem is they never moved him past some of that stuff. And that's, again, I've complained about this before. That's kind of comic book ongoing series problems in general.
You got to constantly reset them.
Yeah. I think the problem becomes when it's when it's a character flaw. I mean, it's okay when you've got someone like Superman who's, got all these good traits and he doesn't need to improve as much.
And his good traits are his flaws.
Yeah, and his good traits are his flaws. But when you've got a character issue that just never goes away, then I think it does a great disservice to the character.
Especially if the flaws are the overcoming the flaws are kind of the point of the character.
Yeah. Yeah, then you're like, well, you're saying he's trying to claim more responsibility, but he's not. So that's where it is possible, I think, even for the creators, the writers of a thing, to miss the bigger picture in their own story.
And I think there's always a temptation. I think a lot of this, the problem, quote unquote, with these, these big scenes that don't quite match the theme or the rest of the movie, I think a lot of it just comes to the temptation is, in all writing and media, kind of the main rule is drama, conflict. Mm-hmm. And many times, the necessity of making the conflict as big as possible will trump maybe something that will be more in line with the character, the rest of the shows, whatever,
with what's been established.
Yeah. You'll make it hurt as much as possible, or make it as triumphant as possible, or as bitter as possible.
Kind of like that old cliche is like, well, why don't you just explain how you feel? And then, sometimes if characters would just say what they should say.
Yeah. And again, that's part of dramatic convention, but I think it can happen if your character's supposed to be a certain way. You might subvert that character for the sake of drama.
Right.
Like if they're always truthful, and then suddenly they, like my least favorite of all cliche plot points is the two best friends, and one of them keeps something from another. And they're best friends, they trust each other, they've done everything together, and then there's some misunderstanding, they break up.
Yeah.
And you're like, guys.
It was one mistake.
You've been through like 10,000, we just watched an entire movie about everything you've been through. And now you're just gonna give it up for, and that always seems forced. It always seems dishonest, but it's there because that's what you're supposed to do, so you can reconcile them at the end during the climax and everything else.
Mm-hmm. So anywho, so kind of the point to all this is
there's a point
for both, I think you can say this for both creators and audience members. What is the bigger picture of the story? Don't go making a giant hoopla over. There's something inherently hypocritical about making a giant media circus over something like the Hunger Games when it's supposed to be
against giant media circuses.
Exactly. We're supposed to be critiquing that very thing. It's just weird. That's another example I made in the blog.
Yeah.
And when you do stuff like that, it makes you, if you're the storyteller, it makes you look, like. It doesn't make you look as smart of a storyteller or as proficient of one. Yeah. And if you do it as an audience member, you come across as the bad sort of fanboy or fangirl.
Yeah, you got to, because obviously everyone has the little pet things they like. Oh, this scene's fat, but what's the whole story? I mean,
I get if the actor, okay, so you're a girl, you like Orlando Bloom, that's nice, but as long as you don't like throw that in her face.
Well, it's not like cameos, not just in The Hobbit, but in lots of things. Sometimes are kind of forced. It's like, oh, I don't want to see this character, we're going to bring them back for an episode, and they do make ridiculous plot lines, just so for the audience's rating or whatever.
And I think too, being careful of not fixating on a certain element just because that's popular.
No, what gets focused on should be determined by the story itself, or by the whole reason you're writing the story.
Yeah. You don't have to make The Hobbit a long, epic thing just because everyone's making epic things.
Here's a good example of, I watched World War Z. Mm-hmm. What is amazing to me about that movie is largely about tension. And it goes out of its way not to show any gore. Mm. I mean, there's one time when the girl's hand gets cut off. The camera moves up right as it gets chopped off by this axe. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a filmmaker saying, look, I could go for the cheap, whatever,
shot,
but that's not the point of this movie. Mm-hmm. And I was really impressed with that movie.
Whenever filmmakers can show restraint because a certain thing wouldn't fit into the context of the rest of the movie, I think that's admirable.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember someone on Twitter pointing out when Mission Impossible, the recent one, Ghost Protocol, came out on DVD. It's like, as you watch that, notice how how little swearing or sex is that's in that movie, and how much you don't miss it.
That movie is a fabulous movie, and like all the set pieces in that movie are geniusly set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brad Bird. Well, just because we haven't mentioned Lost.
Oh yeah.
So I have to.
I thought about it.
No, but here's the thing. Everyone's mad at the ending, but if they had wanted to really play the game, they would have given you slews of answers at the end.
Yeah.
Anyone who was trying to get which might have been dishonest for that show. Mm-hmm. I mean, that show was built on the idea of not giving you answers.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, not real. I'm exaggerating.
But that is a case of the marketing and the actual creative people having two very different visions of what they're trying to do.
And I think, whether you liked it or not, I think the creative people, they did what they felt like was the most honest for the story.
Yeah.
Now, whether you like it or not is a whole nother thing. But.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But
I had to throw that in there.
We've said it before. We've said it before. If I guess in that sense, if you won't give the creators voice to say what, like, no, this is really what we were trying to do. If you just refuse to listen to that all, then I think you're also avoiding the bigger picture in a different sense.
Yeah. But why did they kill Wash? Anyways, never mind.
All right. I think if there's a mantra to this podcast in general, that's kind of a good one, because we tend to go back a lot to what are the needs of the story.
What are the needs? The story should be self-consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It should not be affected by outside things necessarily. So, okay, yeah.
That was a good rant.
Yeah, there we go.
It's been a while since we've had one that we really ranted like that. At least it feels that way. So what are we going to do next, Nick?
Are we doing soundtrack? All right, so if we're talking about spectacles and scenes blown out of proportion and things that have been fixated on by fanboys, myself included to a certain extent, for video game music, you can't go much farther than go much better than One Wing Angel from Final Fantasy VII.
Sephiroth was Final Fantasy VII for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm not sure. I don't
know if it's really a bad thing. I mean, the plot for a lot of Final Fantasy VII is honestly Sephiroth's off doing something bad. Let's go stop him.
Yeah, I mean, it's focused. I mean, Kefka's still cooler. But
true.
Kefka would beat up Sephiroth, I think.
Especially like post
Cataclysm
into the games, Kefka. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. He has 2 wings, doesn't he?
Probably.
Okay, but anyways, so this is a remix of One Wing Angel. Now, obviously, everyone loves the Advent Children version, which we're not playing because it's like 10,000 minutes long and.
Okay.
Well, it's like 8 minutes, isn't it?
Probably.
Anyways, but on Overclock Remix, they have a remix called Black Wing Metamorphosis, remixed by a whole slew of people, which I will attempt to read off very quickly here. Fishy, Jillian Aversa, Sixto Sound, Stephen Andrews, Blind, Tefnik, and Suza Baki. All right, there you go. Anyways.
Susan Mibaki?
Susan Mibaki? That's a great name if this is how you say it. But anyways, it's just a rendition. They weren't even going to try to compete with the Advent Children one, and it kind of goes through a couple different versions. It's from their remix album. What was it called?
It's right there.
I know, I can't see it. Voices of the Livestream, which is actually one of my favorite Overclock Remix albums.
It is a good album. I'm partial to Bound to Ruin more, but I'm partial to most things 6 a little bit more.
I don't know, 7's music is really good too. But okay, but anyways, here is Black Wing Metamorphosis. right, and we're back. Hopefully you enjoyed that wonderful version of One Wing Angel. Well, let's go ahead into Project Update. All right. So it's been a while since we've done an update, and it's been a number of months, actually, probably, since we've done it. So we are actually doing things besides podcasting.
We are.
It takes 3 weeks of the month to do the podcast, and then we have a week to do something else. So, all right, Tim, how about you start?
Well, okay. I guess I should start talk a little bit about the Children of the Wells novella that I have coming up, which I think I've mentioned on here before. I think I mentioned that I'm writing one.
Yeah.
It's going to be the next in the Jason line, which the last chapter of Jason's story just came out today as we were recording, right?
Yes.
The rules change.
The rules change, and in a week or so, it'll be able to be downloadable all in one thing for your e-reader.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if we mentioned before that was written by John Baylor, who was on our podcast way back in episode 21.
What was that?
Oh, what did we call it?
Horizons or something like that, wasn't it?
It was the Unseen Horizon?
Something like that.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me. But yeah, it was the one where we talked about like keeping things in the mist. Kind of this discovery was kind of the theme there. Anywho,
like Missed the Game.
Yes, like Missed the Game. But yeah, John wrote The Rules Change, and he did a great job.
He did a fabulous job. Very good. Very good. You should go read it. Well, if you haven't, read Follow the House with Kaiser first if you haven't.
Yeah, you'd want to read Follow the House with Kaiser. And what we liked about it, too, is we realized it was not one that... He wrote it in a way that probably none of the rest of us who are involved with it would have.
But it really needed to be written.
Yeah, but it really worked in that way. And The Rules Change is kind of a gritty thing. Mine purports to be more of an action-adventure sort of thing. I'm realizing a major problem I did with going with the way I'm doing it is that it has lots of locations. And that's very problematic for me. It's pray for me. There's all kinds of reasons why. Like, I'm very rusty, very, very rusty at it.
And it'll probably be one of the longer ones.
Yes, and it will be the first chapter. So far, it could be cut down. The first chapter is like 3,400 words right now.
It's like my entire Will's Orphan.
It is not. Give me a break. Oh, boy.
And Will's Orphan starts up we'll probably...
Beginning of February, I was guessing?
About then.
Yeah.
So you've heard a lot about that. We've
Yep.
talked about it here, so you feel free to, if you're feeling happy, come and read it. So.
So yes, stay tuned for updates about both of those stories in the months to come. Otherwise, just keeping busy with my other jobs. The archery tag where I do videos, and my church where I do videos. We're getting ready for a big NRA show that's coming up. They're going to have it in the archery tag in a big arena throughout the whole thing. So
cool.
It's kind of a big deal.
Nice. Very nice.
So keeping busy with that sort of thing. And procrastinating on my book. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. Nick, what's going on with your projects?
Well, I had a 10th year anniversary. Oh, we already talked about that. And I guess the main thing is first week of February I'm doing a virtual book tour for Unremarkable Squire.
Mm-hmm. Before you get to that, have you put out? You've done some short stories since the last time.
Oh,
we did
I guess I have done
a
a couple short stories. 1, 2, I don't know. There's one called His Death that I know came out since last project update, which is a little. It's only like 2,000 words, little short story I wrote. I don't know how much to say about it. It's about this guy and he meets his death as a person and not a death. Well, you'll have to read it.
So his death as a person or specifically his own death?
Well, he has a death that comes to him and visits him.
Okay.
Everyone has their own death.
All right. Interesting.
Hence they're called His Death. I think that's the only one that came out since.
Okay.
There might be other ones. I forget when I released them. Go to my website, worksofnick.com, and you can go and hunt down some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. They're entertaining. I like writing them.
Anyway, now onto your blog tour.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm blog tour, which I've never done a blog tour, and it's kind of cool. So my publisher hooked me up with one, and there's this organization that does blog tours, and they just basically, there's like 7 blogs that are going to feature me in the first week of February, and you want to follow me on Facebook or go to worksofnick.com and you can see each day where I'm heading off to. I've gotten, interview questions and articles and stuff that people, they asked me questions, I wrote them back. And so there's articles, each day will be new content about me and or the Unremarkable Squire. And it should be kind of neat. And then on the 8th, 7th, the Friday, I'll be in Goshen at a book signing at Better World Books, which is quite the bookstore. It looks like. I've never been up there, but I think it's Goshen College. I think does stuff with it too.
Oh, cool.
But I had a friend who had a book sign up there, and she said, "Hey, you gotta go to this place. It was great. There were like college kids running around on games and buying books, and
Awesome.
I'm like, okay, cool.
That could be fun.
So
Now-
that's exciting. Yeah,
Now, I was curious about so you're doing at least one guest blog, right?
I'm doing one guest blog. Most of them are interviews and or specific. Like one has a question. Basically, they ask a lot of authors about their workspace, and so you kind of write about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that was another question I had. If they asked you a lot of the same sort of
No,
questions.
they were like a couple of them had just a list of like 20 questions. They said, "Hey, pick 8 of these," and so each day is pretty different. There is an interview with Obed in one day,
Oh, cool.
which would be fun, which is interesting. So it was actually quite a lot of fun to put together, and I think actually very, very cheap. And if I ever publish something important myself, I might look into doing it again. We'll see how it goes. But
Well, what are you talking about? You are published. You did
No,
publish
no,
something
no.
important.
no, like if I ever do self-publishing myself,
Oh,
I
another
like.
self-publishing
I think it'd be a good way to promote. I mean, if it's a novel worth doing that too. Not just hey, here's some short stories that I'm putting out here.
Right.
Like I could see doing it for Children Wells maybe.
That could be interesting.
Like first year or something like that. I haven't thought through it. But anyways, so that's my main thing. I keep trying, kind of puttering around trying to do promotion for this Unremarkable Squire book you may have heard about.
I still think it would be entertaining if you did, because like way back when you had Strin and Fred come out, you did a thing where you had each of the characters talk about the book. I think it'd be interesting to do something like that again, where they all talk about Obed.
That
Because
that'd be quite interesting.
because Obed is such an enigmatic character, and
Yeah.
and it's almost as worthwhile of just kind of developing interest in who is this guy as much as what is this book.
Well, and honestly, the interview with Obed ends up people talking about Obed.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so it's kind of the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So
good. So like,
because he's honestly Obed is the guy worth reading the book for.
yeah, I'm guessing like Violet butts in, and
Well, Violet's there to begin with.
Oh, okay.
She's like she was going to be part of the interview. She wasn't going to be left out of that.
that's fantastic.
So
is it taken from the perspective of like after the book, or do you even get into that?
it's timey-wimey on that aspect. I mean, it's
Okay.
taken as after the book, but some things are yeah, it's after the book, but some things that are happening are could have happened in the middle of the book. The guards wander in and they don't know where Lana is, and so
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. When is this big week again?
the first week of February, Monday through Friday.
Same.
Well, I'm on a blog a day, and then there's 2 days where I'm on a blog, and then there's like a review on a different blog. Because there's 7 blogs, but 2 of them just did reviews or promos, just kind of like, hey, I read this book, here's what I think about it, or hey, there's this book, I haven't read it, but go read it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I'd always heard this blog tour, and I'm like, what in the world? How do I stop by a blog?
I'll be very curious to see I'm curious to see what the reaction to this would be, because, in my line of work, I've been learning a lot about video marketing and about how to do your channel, because that's what I do for my job. So I'm really curious in how this low key author publishing promotion stuff will work out. for
Yeah,
me.
it'll be interesting, because a lot of them are book blogs that basically what they do all week, every week is talk about books. And so
Yeah.
the readers are all looking for books.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have no idea what kind of audiences they have, if there'll be a big hit or a little hit, but I don't know, it's worth trying.
Sure, I think it'll
So.
be fun. All right.
So we thought, kind of to help kick off this blog tour, that we do a little bit of dramatic reading of Shakespeare, of the Unremarkable Squire.
Okay, I think I might have let that go on a little too long. But I think it works.
All right. So we haven't practiced. This is live
Yes.
dramatic reading.
Live dramatic reading
And-
from the Unremarkable
And now, while
Squire.
Tim has been in plays, I have only been in Oklahoma back in 5th grade, and the Munchkin Mayor back in 6th grade. So,
Well, it helps that your characters are a little over the top anyway, so
Well.
that will accommodate my hammy acting.
well, and it helps that Obed is basically low key, and so I can do that. So
So are you doing Obed here, or
I'll do Obed.
You can do Obed,
I
so-
got Obed and narrator for me. Tim will do everyone else, which actually in this case, not many people. Other chapters
yes,
would be complicated.
yes, very
It'd be like Mel
complicated.
Blanc sort of style.
But in this case, we'll each be doing 2 characters.
And this is basically right from the beginning of the book, just a few paragraphs after the beginning to kind of give you a sense of. It's a good introduction into the kind of the humor of the world, and also Obed as an enigmatic character. So, all right, let's see where we're going to start. All right. Now, there was a knight whose armor shone more brightly than the rest, as if it had never been subjected to mud, or weapon, or blood. He held his blazing helmet beneath his arm, so that his golden hair flared in the sun. His strong, handsome face glowed like a god's. His name was Sir Lance Valentino of Terelia.
It is a good day for adventuring.
Sir Valentino proclaimed. His piercing blue eyes scanned the sky deliberately, as if he expected a dragon to materialize and descend upon them in unholy fury. His gaze implied he would welcome such a challenge.
"'Tis indeed, my friend,"
replied Sir Armand Giovanni of Iliafa. He, too, held his helmet beneath his arm, though his hair did not blaze as brightly as Sir Valentino's, for it was several shades darker. His cream horse sidled closer to Sir Valentino's snowy stallion.
"When did you receive the summons?" "But a few days ago. I was at the table of King Lamir when the message arrived. I was hesitant in leaving, for I am loyal to my liege and his daughter, to whom I assigned to protect. She has an irrational desire to escape the castle and flee to other countries. I fear she has been cursed by an unseen evil."
Sir Giovanni nodded solemnly.
"Such things do happen." "They do indeed, my friend. The injustice of it sears my soul."
Sir Valentino smacked a gauntlet-clad fist against his armored chest to illustrate just how deeply his soul was seared. Sir Giovanni, after an appropriate pause, asked,
"How did you gain permission from your liege to attend?"
Sir Valentino gave a hearty laugh.
"Ha ha 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 ha! He does not need to be convinced. The nations of Barn and Terelia are on friendly terms, and my liege wished me to gain glory in the name of Terelia." I hope I'm saying that right.
Close it.
"He was gracious enough to grant me the use of a manor he owns not 10 casts south of the city." "Indeed, my journey was not as simple as yours. Elafia is a friend of no nation."
Sir Giovanni took his turn laughing.
"But where is your squire? Last I saw, you had a large boy trotting beside you. Bull, was it not?"
Sir Valentino nodded.
"Yes, he is dead. It was an unfortunate matter, but he had no sense. Any fool knows not to startle a dogna beast while it is sleeping." "He did die heroically, though?" "He screamed like a girl till his last breath."
Sir Valentino grimaced.
Wrong.
Sir Giovanni grimaced, an expression he used rarely, but it was recognizable just the same.
"Have you no squire, then?"
Sir Giovanni asked as his face resumed its smile.
"You may have need of one in the days to come. You will be at a disadvantage without one. Even now, my squire Nick is purchasing jewelry so that I may have a necklace or bracelets for each beautiful maiden I meet, that she may treasure it forever." "You are right, but I had no time in Terelia to choose a new squire since I came here in all haste." "Then pick one of the locals,"
Sir Giovanni said, motioning behind him with a graceful nod of his head.
"You can relinquish him later if you are displeased with him after your time in Basilian. Basilion?
Basilian.
Basilion is finished." "True."
Sir Valentino rounded his horse and turned his attention to the locals. Many stood intermixed with the adventurers, waiting for the king to appear, and staring at the foreigners and their weapons. A trickle of others squeezed along the edge of the crowd, attempting to go about their usual business.
"Boy!"
Sir Valentino called. 6 heads whipped around.
"You, boy!"
Sir Valentino pointed a powerful finger. The indicated boy nodded and approached. He was an unremarkable boy. He wore soil-colored clothes that matched his lifeless mat of hair. He was not tall, not short, not gangly, not muscular, not anxious or arrogant. He was nothing if not common. His face was impassive, as if emotion never touched it. His brown eyes glinted with a cool life, not with a flame of rambunctious youth, but with the unclouded gaze of a mathematician or the unconcerned look of a dreamer. Over his shoulder hung a worn sack. "Yes?" the boy asked. His tone was one which he might have used with his parents, respectful but familiar.
"What is your name?"
Sir Valentino asked, smiling broadly down at the boy. "Obed Kainos." He did not return Sir Valentino's smile. "Who are you?"
"You will have to teach him deference, Sir Valentino,"
Sir Giovanni said. Sir Valentino nodded.
"You need to learn not to speak smartly to your superiors."
"My parents don't like me to speak stupidly." Sir Valentino let the comment pass.
"I have chosen you to be my squire, Obed Kainos."
He waited for the boy's stunned reaction. "Why?" Obed asked in the same polite tone as before.
"Why? Have you not dreamt of rescues and sword fights? Do you not desire love and glory?"
I was not aware one had to become a squire to attain such things. Sir Valentino's smile slipped momentarily, before reappearing with greater intensity.
"Have you never desired to be party to the making of history?"
I've never given it much thought. I'm usually busy with work at home. Sir Giovanni laid a hand on Sir Valentino's shoulder.
"Give it up, my friend." "No!"
Sir Valentino replied harshly, but he quickly recovered.
"No,"
He repeated nobly.
"I shall take him on as a challenge. I shall shape him into the ideal squire. It will be an act of supreme sacrifice." "Very good,"
said said Sir Giovanni.
"You will swear an oath of loyalty, will you not?"
Sir Valentino asked the boy. Obed considered a moment. "Would he like me to?"
"It is a great honor to be the squire of Sir Lance Valentino,"
Sir Giovanni said. He scrubbed his mustache furiously. "That isn't what I asked," Obed said. Sir Giovanni's eyes widened in shock. Then he proudly turned his head to gaze carelessly into the sky.
"Out of everyone here,"
Sir Valentino began in a voice meant for teaching young children,
"I selected you, Obed Kainos.
He pointed a finger at Obed.
I'm giving you the chance to rise above your station, to mingle with kings and queens, to savor the taste of victory, and the..."
"That's enough, I'll swear."
Well, that was fun.
That was actually quite entertaining. I really need an audio drama of my book now. Actually, if they got someone to do voices, the book would be hilarious.
Oh, it probably would.
Come on, I just want to see Snivelwit and Boozle running around. Those guys are great. That scene at the cave when they're like, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, and you have really good voices for each of your characters. Like,
I was told back in high school that I do really good with dialogue.
which is ironic because I don't think you focus on that as much anymore.
No, I don't. I mean, I think it comes natural, so I've worked on other stuff.
Yeah. Which
So.
dialogue I think is easiest for me too. I mean, just from what I've done on New Wells Rising so far.
Yeah.
But anywho, we better wrap this show
Yeah,
up.
that's true. We run. So, anyways, that was the Unremarkable Squire. If you still haven't bought it, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So,
Do it.
do it. Help a poor starving artist. Well, we're not really starving, but
Well, that's good.
yeah, we got Girl Scout cookies, so you can't starve with those. So,
All right.
that's it then.
That is it.
So, I guess do contact info and then.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
So our email address is derailedtrains@gmail.com.
Which I always forget to check. Okay. And then you can visit us at derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com, or please subscribe to us on iTunes.
And
I guess that's
there was
it.
something else I was going to say with that. I don't remember what it was. So that was completely useless.
And also just if you like the idea of Children of the Wells, that's childrenofthewells.com.
Yes.
Since we mentioned that earlier.
Yes, definitely check
And
that out.
worksofnick.com for my website.
And if you want to check out some archery tag, if you've never seen it before,
Yeah.
hey, I'll take those views. It's just go to I think it's just youtube.com/archery tag. I think that's how, or just search for it on YouTube.
Yeah. Or if you want a search engine, you type google.com. We're just not throwing websites out.
Well, true. And I suppose could also say, our own website, archerytag.com.
Yeah, there you go.
I probably have weird priorities because I probably am more concerned with our YouTube than everything else.
Well,
which
that's your job, largely.
It is my job largely, but bigger picture, I should
Well,
plug in the rest of it.
All right.
Yep.
So, what is your soundtrack today?
My soundtrack. This was sort of a last-minute choice because I really had no idea what to go with this. Then Nick was talking about the spectacle of things, and I was like, you know what? There's a pretty great spectacle in Final Fantasy VI.
See, you chose 6 and I had 7. What
Yeah,
is
that's
that?
true. Big surprise there. But going back to the other great OC Remix album from that, Balance and Ruin. This is where that's from. This is The Nightmare Oath. If you thought, I know some of you thought, the opera was going to go with the rock opera thing, which is cool.
But it's 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it's really long. So this, instead, I'm going with The Nightmare Oath, which I forgot to get the information of that up. Do that real quick. Which, coincidentally enough, this is a song that I really enjoy singing in the car. Because no one can hear me, I can belt it out. And
Why don't you do it for the podcast? We'll just get you karaoke. We'll just get you the... It'd be awesome. Oh, it's probably not.
Oh, it's not on the main thing. I'll have to go to the Balance and Ruin page. You have it up?
I can in a moment.
Because I want to give credit to this guy. Okay, there we go.
Oh, you found it.
No, not yet.
OA, Moonlapse, and some other people.
Okay, say that again.
OA,
OA,
Moonlapse,
Moonlapse.
and Arctic. I see, then it cuts it off.
Oh, okay. Well, go look in the show notes. It'll say who wrote this thing, because we're running out of in theme tune. So anyway, thank you for listening, and hopefully, when we get back to Indiana, it'll be a little warmer.
I hope so, yeah.
So this has been Derailed Trains of Thought. This is Tim.
This is Nick.
See you next time.
Adios.
Though the stars fade in the sky, the light your love gives never dies.